Khantī cha sovacassatā, samaṇānañca dassanaṃ, Kālena dhammasākacchā, etaṃ maṅgalamuttamaṃ. Patience, forgiveness, and gentleness. The perception or the insight of the wandering ascetics, of those who've gone into the spiritual life, discussing the Dharma at the right time. This is the highest blessing. So this is very similar in structure to verse 9. We have basically a list of nouns here, which are really abstract qualities, which, if we were to possess, would be a blessing. So I guess I say it that way because it is a blessing that something like patience exists and gentleness, but really they only exist when people exhibit them and when people's conduct sort of brings these out. That's probably a terrible way to say that. So just one thing, grammatically is I've listed the genders here only so that if you were to encounter this in another case besides the nominative singular, you would sort of not be surprised, or you might be able to predict it better. The gender is going to make a little difference when we decline between masculine and feminine, although I think that could probably figure out what the case is looking at it and in context. Likewise here, this is feminine. Just don't want to think that it's a masculine plural. Now this one, even when we look at the Thai translation down here, it's really not that clear. It's almost less clear when you look at the Thai, and that's because my Thai isn't great, and I will consult with my wife, who is a native Thai speaker. And the question here is that we have this noun, dassanaṃ, and that comes from the hypothetical verb dassati, and that's hypothetical because in the present tense we really see passaddhi, but this means to see. And obviously seeing can be literal. It can also mean like insight, the power of perception, a view, and not just a view meaning looking at something, but how, our view of the world, our view of, a given situation. So the question is, how does samaṇānañca, it's hard for me to say it like this, samaṇānaṃ, and this changes to this because of the cha. We've talked about that countless times. The insight, literally the insight or the view of the wandering ascetics, of those who've gone into the spiritual life. Now, the question is, do we understand that to mean like I am viewing a religious ascetic or a spiritual seeker? Is that the kind of seeing, or is it the insight that is gained by those who've gone into the spiritual life? My inclination is that actually it's both, and that might be a good reason why it's expressed this way. That we do benefit from seeing people who've gone into the spiritual life. It encourages us that there are other paths available. And a friend of mine was just writing about that yesterday, a great post. It was basically about how we need to encourage each other to have a different point of view, especially if we're going to save the world from sort of economic or ecological disaster, and which is kind of based upon our economic policies. But the point here is that seeing people who have changed their lives and have made a commitment to the, I'll just say to the spiritual path, that emboldens us, and it gives us, it emboldens us. At the same time, the reason it emboldens us is because we know what they've learned. We know of their viewpoints and perceptions, and what's come from their lifestyle and their wisdom that they've developed, and their conduct and their virtue, and so on and so forth. So anyway, I probably have mangled that a little bit, but I hope it's clear that at least in the Pali, when we read the Pali, we don't have to commit to one or the other. In English, we really wouldn't have to either. We could say the perception of wandering ascetics. That really, we don't know if that's what they would technically call the subjective or objective genitive. So I'm going to leave that there. I've rambled too long there. In the Thai, I guess it's not that clear. To me, it looks more likeความเห็น samaṇānaṃ ทั้งหลาย. It kind of looks like it's the seeing the samanas. But it still, there could be kind of an understood kong here, the insight of the samanas, of all the samanas. By the way, on the Thai dictionary website I go to, Thai to English, they say that samana is cognate with the English word shaman. I think in Sanskrit, samana is shramana, so it could be. And dear listener, I will leave that to you to kind of ponder and research. So the second line is almost exactly the same as the second line of the 9th verse, but instead of savana, hearing the Dharma, we have sākacchā, discussing the Dharma. And that makes me think of all the great rabbis who would gather and discuss the Torah. So discussing the Dharma at the right time. Which, by the way, if there's a right time to discuss the Dharma, that would really imply that there's a wrong time to discuss it. Something else I would love to hear thoughts about, dear listener. Etaṃ maṅgalamuttamaṃ. This is the highest blessing.